Hello and welcome back to G-senjou no Maou. And the next chapter is upon us. So let's head wide into that. Maybe I should have warmed up my voice a little bit and prepared some water, but I did neither of those things because I never plan ahead. Okay, and my dearest son, I want to speak with you in person. His father wrote before the first trial. Oh, it's okay. I'm not going to be able to avoid the death penalty. Thus, I don't rightly care if you take this letter as the rambling excuses of a murderer. I just want to detail the honest truth about the events leading up to my killing of Yusami's son. I was born and raised in a fishing village in Hokkaido, the third son in my family. I moved to Tokyo to pursue higher education, and after graduating from college, I somehow managed to snag a position in the world-famous Sanoo Corporation. Wait... Did Kyosuke's father kill Yusami's mother? My days in the accounting division were hectic. An extraordinary volume of goods passes through the hands of a huge company like Sanoo each day. They were purchased overseas, imported, manufactured, transported, distributed, and the debits and credits associated with each step required a monstrous effort and nerve-wracking perseverance to keep straight. One day, as I was intensively double-checking our service and purchase costs in preparation for the end of the current billing period, I collapsed from exhaustion. By the way, the background music is very nice. I suppose things finally caught up to me. Nevertheless, it was a happy occasion, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. For that was the day I met your mother, who was working as a nurse at a nearby hospital. I soon found myself making up excuses to my boss, just so that I could sneak out to visit her there. You boys have always known your mother as a cheerful woman whose cooking could satisfy royalty, but at work she was a bit shy and had a hard time holding conversations. She wasn't very good with people, and trying to socialize with her colleagues wore on her nerves. Yeah, I can understand that. I only get along with very few people. Well, actually more than I would think, but they are also odd in a similar way, and that makes it way easier. She later told me that her nursing work aggravated her anxiety so much that she began to take tranquilizers. Oh no. But as you know, your old man was straightforward, persuasive, and a frivolous joker. Guess I shouldn't be surprised when my son Kyosuke? Wait, isn't Kyosuke wrote differently before? Or is this Kyosuke? Kyosuke. I think I stay with Kyosuke. Gets described in the same way, huh? I asked her to marry me barely 1 month after meeting her. Oh man, that's really fast. I rushed things along because I knew how things worked in trading companies. One never stays in one place for too long. Anyway, I took her to an amusement park and then gave her the wing at a hotel restaurant that evening. Luckily for me, your mother was also interested in me. Her beautiful white skin turned bright red, and I remember she nearly fell out of her chair in surprise. I went to visit her parents the very next day, and before we knew it, we were married. Supposedly the people at the ceremony called me a wife stealer. Wait, what? Why? Soon after, as I'd predicted, I was transferred to Germany. Hey! Haha, that's where I live. Your mother came along without a single complaint. We had our first child there in Europe, far away from our homeland. That child was you, of course. Apparently it was a difficult delivery. You came out legs first. Ooh, that's never good. Your old man wept at the sound of your first cry. It was completely out of character. We lived in Germany until you were 3 years old. You were a playful little boy. Your first words were amusement park. Germany had nothing but those mobile carnivals, so when we returned to Japan, I made sure to take you to a full-fledged theme park. Hey, that's not true. We don't only have mobile carnivals. We have a lot of theme parks. We have Hansa Park, we have Heide Park, and we have yeah, that's basically it. But it's at least 2 theme parks. I want to play every day forever. I was quite worried for your future when you said those words. But much to my relief, you turned out to be a genius. They called me to your elementary school once after you'd taken an IQ test, and all your mother could say later was that a duck like me had raised up a swan. Oh, sick burn. For a long time, as you know, our family enjoyed peaceful days. My mousy wife, who suddenly became a lioness, went home with her boys. My 2 sons, frivolous Kyosuke and cold, passionate Kyohei. The 4 of us lived happily. Wait, you had a brother? Oh no, so Kyosuke was your name before you? Asai Gonzo. Asai Kyosuke? No, Gonzo is his first name. Or is it? Asai Gonzo. Yusami... What was her first name? Yusami and then... No, Yusami is her first name. Tsubaki? Adai Kyosuke. The Adai Corporation. Okay, it is Kyosuke. It is his first name. So he had a brother. Hey, did you ever notice this tidbit? Though it seemed like I was gone overseas on business most of the time, I was always home for Bon. New Year's and your birthday. What is Bon? Now that I think about it, those were the happiest days of my life. So when was it that I met Yusami Yoshinori? Wait, Yusami must be the last name. And he always calls her Yusami because he doesn't want to use the first name because he doesn't see them as friends? Because this is obviously the mother of the Yusami we know. Oh god, I feel so bad for not knowing the first name of Yusami despite her being one of the main characters. Yusami-san was a capable man, working as a so it's the father. Working as a sales manager at a construction firm under the Sanoo Corporation umbrella. Oh, that reminds me, wait. There, Yusami Haru! Okay, yeah, Yusami Haru. Okay. Oh god, I feel so bad, I'm so sorry. He calls her Yusami all the time, and the name Haru only pops up here and there. And the breaks don't help it either. You've heard of the Tomanbetsu City Outer Underground Discharge Channel, right? It's being constructed under the city as a drainage route for rainwater. If it ever gets completed, they say it'll be 50 meters deep and one of the largest underground open spaces in the world. The first time I met Yusami-san, he boasted about how he had plucked the privilege of building the outer underground discharge channel from the whole country. He held his head high like a samurai and talked in a dignified manner. I met the man when I was transferred to that huge nationally recognized project. I say the first time I met him, but I suppose that's a lie. I first encountered him back in my school days through an activist group we both attended. Activism was all the rage back in those days. It may sound hard to believe now, but I was bad news back then. I took over an authoritative position in an activist group from a neighboring town. This position allowed me to manage their funds. It was some fairly risky business. And to this very day I still have police coming to my door from time to time. Police! Oh! Yusami-san and I had a riot discussing old times. For example, there was a time we barricaded ourselves in one of the school buildings. But as we look back on everything, both Yusami and I realized that we hadn't done what we did out of any productive ideals or anything. There was merely something wrong with us. At least that's the conclusion we both reached as we sat around drinking together. After about 2 weeks, we had gotten close enough that Yusami-san invited me over to his house. Wait, let us go back to this conclusion. At least that there was maybe something wrong with that. I think you did it because it made you feel alive and you had fun while doing it. I have the feeling. Because you don't do it if you don't think that it benefits. If you do something, if you think it benefits you in a way, or if you have fun while doing it. If neither of those, or the other thing is, if you believe in something so much that you feel how's it called? That you feel rectified? No. That you feel... Oh god, what was the word for it? I know that I know the word. If you get any out of it, if you have fun while doing it, and if you feel justified by doing it. If you believe in something and feel justified for doing it. Or something like that. I think that's the word, I'm not quite sure. After about 2 weeks, we had gotten close enough that Yusami-san invited me over to his house. Much to my surprise, it wasn't a house at all. It was a small apartment that seemed to be at least 20 years old. I suppose I expected him to live more luxuriously, seeing as he had such a distinguished career. I do have quite a bit of savings, but I don't come home very often. He laughed as he said that. I found that rather strange. I had heard he had a wife and daughter. However, I understood when he told me his wife's name. I was astonished, and I must admit, even a bit jealous. His wife was Mishima Kaoru, a famous violinist. He said he had waited to tell me so that it would come as a bigger surprise. He'd always had the nature of an entertainer and enjoyed his dramatics more than most. I'm sure I've told you before, but I'm a huge fan of Mishima-san. Her world tours brought her performances to audiences across the globe, from Moscow to New York. She must have been incredibly busy. It's only natural she wouldn't have the time to go home. It made me feel incredibly sorry for their daughter, Haru. That's something I never understood. If you don't have the time to tend to your child until it is 18 years old, why do you have children in the first place? I mean, okay, maybe not until they are 18 years old, but when you don't have time to tend to your children until they go to, I don't know, high school or something, after they finish primary school. Is it called primary school? I think. That's the first school you attend to, right? I mean, those are the most crucial points. The life when they are born up until the point they leave the primary school. Because then they more or less learn the social skills necessary, hopefully, not all of them like me, to interact with other people more freely, and then you can tend to your own again. I mean, why having children if you don't spend as much time as possible with them? But I think I can only say that because I never had any of my own, so maybe I'm just talking out of my everywhere, but that's just a belief I have until I'm proven differently by personal experience. Her father was as widely successful as her mother, and between all the transfers and travel, the poor girl must have been left behind more often than not. I doubt she received the love and attention she needed to develop as a child should. That's exactly what I couldn't phrase it better. The general consensus about little Haru-chan was that she was a strange kid, and sure enough, when I knocked on the door to her room that fateful first visit, she didn't respond at all. No greeting, no acknowledgement. Only the sound of a violin betrayed her presence within. "This song is for you," she eventually said, and began playing air on the G string. Apparently she was rather like you. She was born in Germany and had learned to play the violin from the age of 5. She had her mother's talent, and the girl's rendition was truly beautiful. At that point you could say Yusami-san and I were friends. Nevertheless, Haru-chan kept to herself. All the time. It made me want to bring her home to meet you and your brother. God knows the girl had probably never been to a proper family gathering. However, I was never given the chance. The more I was with Yusami-san, the more he invited me to play mahjong, or mahjong. One day, as he was kicking my ass at the game, Yusami-san cheerily told me about his family situation. That he was the fourth son in a family of bureaucrats, and that despite having the brains and connections to be a politician, he continued to work at his current company. It was only when he began to insult his father, who was a famous member of the cabinet, and his brother, that I realized something was not quite right. And I assure you, it wasn't a side effect of my many losses at Mahjong. I later found out that his family had disowned him. But he certainly wasn't a worthless man. He was a good leader to his subordinates on the Underground Channel project, and he took initiative when negotiating with subcontractors. He practically became a corporate legend after heading alone into the director of senior management's office, a man named Someya, with a bottle of whiskey to propose an increase in the project's budget. Yusami was a man of both humor and wit, and to be quite honest, it's not surprising that he was able to win over Mishima Kaoru. Wait, what? A man named Someya? Samejima-san, I've got a favor to ask, he said. In his usual dramatic tone, one night after we'd finished a dinner meeting at a high-class restaurant in downtown Tokyo. I believe you'll find it to be quite a tempting offer. He said he wanted to start his own business in the near future. Not under the Sano Corporation umbrella, but his very own company. You're the first person I've mentioned this to, he said as passionately as a child. He had a tendency to boast about his plans, but his talent was recognized both within the company and around Japan's business world. And my nose is all wet, I don't like it. I was sure he'd be a success, and I told him I was rooting for him. I want you to be my partner. I'd half suspected the conversation was headed in that direction, but he openly invited me to join his new company. He respectfully bowed to me and offered to make me a manager if I invested some money in the company. I felt bad about it, but I rejected his offer. I didn't have any ambition. I was happy with my current job, and most of all, if I had time to start a business, I'd rather spend it with you and the rest of our family. Oh, yeah, I like his father. Why does the Maou Kyosuke doesn't like his father? I don't get it, and I hope we find out why that is. What did he do so awful that he hates him so much? I'm sad to hear that, Yusami-san said. I'm sorry, I've got a baby girl on the way, you see? Really now? Congratulations! You always said you wanted a girl. Have you decided on a name yet? Wait. The child I named Kiyomi was born with a genetic heart disease, as you two already know. It was the first baby girl in our home, which had until then been blessed only with boys. My excitement was probably enough to make you two jealous. And she was a handful, wasn't she? Heart disease, that means she died early. We had to take her to the hospital twice a week, and your mother nearly collapsed from anemia. What is anemia? Let me see. Collapsing from anemia? Come on, load. There we go. Oh! So it's if you don't have enough blood in your system. And when your mother was feeling too ill to change your noisy little diapers, you diligently volunteered to do it yourself. You were such a kind-hearted boy. Nevertheless, Kiyomi died. She was only 15 months old. How did his brother die? She passed on a peaceful day, one heavy with the traces of the coming spring. Your mother said she looked like she was sleeping. Do you remember the quiet funeral, son? It was only the four of us, yet you didn't shed a single tear. For what reason was she born? You shouted up at the clear winter sky. You were just a boy, but life had already driven you to curse God. A week or so after Kiyomi died, Yusami's son came to me with 3 of his subordinates. They were clad in mourning clothes and suddenly bowed to me. I'm very sorry for your loss, he said, choking back tears. Yusami-san raised his head and didn't try to hide the overflowing tears pouring from his red eyes. Why was he so connected? I mean, why does he cry so much over? Was he really that good of a friend to him? Why does it start off so sad? He's crying for Kiyomi, I thought, naively moved. Oh, after all, he had given clothes to my baby girl when she was born. I completely dropped my guard around Yusami-san. He made time to take me to an expensive restaurant in Ginza once. The wife stole off to Berlin and took Haru with her. I'm feeling pretty lonely myself, he said, and I'm completely believed that the man smiling bashfully before me was a true friend. How much do you need? What do you mean? You talked to me about investing before, remember? You needed funds to start your own business. If you want my help, it's yours. Oh, don't be silly. I can't do that, Samijima-san. You've got a family to take care of. You can't have the time to be answering to my whims. You're right. I'm sorry. I can't leave my current job to go with you. Still, I'd like to lend you something as a token of my gratitude. I had put aside 5 million yen for Kiyomi's medical bills. So at the time I figured it wouldn't do any harm to invest that in a friend who cared about Kiyomi enough to shed tears. I had already saved enough money to put 2 boys through schooling, and with my high-paying job at a top-class company, I had also probably forgotten the value of 5 million yen. Thank you very much. I will repay this debt many times over. Thinking back on it now, I realized that Kiyomi's death had clouded my judgment. Wait, he betrayed him? Oh, come on! I made a few small blunders at work and occasionally took out my frustration on your What the fuck is wrong with you? So after offering a stick of incense to Kiyomi's portrait, I signed Yusami-san's investment contracts. My signature was only needed on one of the 2 papers. We had the contracts notarized the next day. It's only now that I question why I needed to sign something in order to invest in his company. Wait, you don't read the thing if you invest money in it? I've lamented this oversight so many times since that day. Why did I not read the other of the 2 papers? How could an accountant at Sanoo Corporation fall for such a simple ploy? I will be asked these questions at my trial, I'm sure of it. They will grind this point into the dust, doubting my sensibility, my common sense, and even my sanity. Forgive your foolish old dad. After that day, Yusami-san almost never met with me for a meal. I brushed it off, thinking he was just busy between building the outer underground discharge channel and setting up his own business. But then, one weekend, when we were preparing to go on a family camping trip, a huge man in a jet black suit and blood-red shirt showed up on our doorstep. I met a few radicals during my stint in student activisms. They all had uncanny facial expressions, and their eyes glistened with their deviant ideals. Not a one of those twisted men had half the overwhelming atmosphere of this bestial man. 50 million in all. He spoke in a tone that said he wouldn't take no for an answer, and I trembled in fear. It wasn't hard to recognize the giant as a Yakuza debt collector. He held a promissory note up to my face. I couldn't believe it. I had apparently at some point become a guarantor of someone named Kato Takayuki. I knew the name. He was one of Yusami-san's subordinates, and I played mahjong with him a few times. I had no idea what was what, and I asked him to leave. He obeyed me that day. However, his frozen eyes told me that next time he wouldn't be so lenient. I can still see the worry in your mother's eyes that afternoon. I was taken aback when I looked at the promissory note. The loan had a principal of 5 million yen, but an unbelievable amount of interest had accrued. As the man had said, 50 million in all. So you invested money in him. Haven't read the papers that made you accidentally a guarantor, and now you have to pay back 10 times the amount you invested? I mean, god damn it, normally if you invest in someone, you only use the money you invested in that person and not can go into deeper depths. Unless it is, there are some companies like that where you only held liable for the money you put into the business, but nothing further, and you foolishly contracted to something that makes you liable even in your private state. Your friend fucked you over quite hard. Your friend fucked you over. And now I know how Yusami's dad died. Huh. I think I know it at least. Promissory note in hand, I drove over to Yusami-san's apartment. Mishima-san and Haru-chan weren't there. In their places were 3 men, including Kato Takayuki and Yusami-san playing mahjong without a care in the world. I never intended to trick you, Samejima-san. I said I invest 5 millions in you. I didn't say I'd shoulder your 50 million yen in debts. But you did sign the promissory note, did you not? Yusami-san's acting was stellar. He tilted his head as if to say I was acting strange. If at this point I realized the trick Yusami-san used on the promissory note, I wouldn't have had to resort to murder. I'm still not quite sure as to what happened, but Yusami-san had somehow hidden something within those contracts that exploded into my 50 million yen debt to the devil. Anyway, 50 million, you can pay it for my subordinate Kato, yes? It's not like it's an unpayable sum for someone in a top-weight firm like yourself, his arrogant chimp seemed to say. Isn't this a crime, Yusami-san? Don't be so silly. Where's the proof of that? This is fraud. I'll report you to the police. That's fine with me. If you do that, I'll just go ahead and report all of your recent screw-ups to Sumaya back at headquarters. At this point, there wasn't a single employee at the company who was not aware of the close friendship between Yusami-san and Director Sumaya. I myself had heard rumors about employees being fired the day after doing no more than glaring at Yusami-san. And as foolish as I was, I believed them. But if I were indeed a criminal, Samijima-san, I'd be in good company. Remember when we entertained that fellow with the Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transport at the restaurant in Akasaka? Along with this female companion? I'd say that was a fine example of excessive reception. Now remind me again, who headed up that little event? Deftly rolling a mahjong tile in his fingers, he spoke up triumphantly. You were sure enjoying yourself that night, he continued, prompting one of his subordinates to laugh. No, he continued, prompting one of his subordinates to laugh. You were drooling all over that woman, but despite being a married man. Oh, come on, I liked you and now you turn out to be a prick? The laugh spread through the room. The talk about starting your own business was a lie then? I asked in desperation. No, it was true, but it's something I'll put more thought into later. At the moment, I'm devoted to finishing the outer underground discharge channel. I thought, a tearsman mything, who died without living even a fraction of a full life. Those tears were fake too, weren't they? I will curse Yusami's false sobs, even from the very platform of the gallows. Could you please leave? I have a winning hand here. I spoke with the corporate lawyer at Sano about how a friend had frauded me, but in the end he said I had no choice but to pay up. Even after taking out all my savings, I still couldn't reach 50 million. I'm not much of an extravagant spender, but your sickly mother's medical expenses and Kiyomi's operation bills weren't cheap, and they really took a toll on our family finances. Sucking up to my parents, being scorned by my relatives' cold eyes, planted a dark emotion in my very soul. Why am I in this situation? Wait, if he's still bringing up the company, why does he have to pay a debt now? Why did he bring him in this situation if the company is still a thing that will happen later on? What? That doesn't make sense currently. I bottled my anger at the unfair circumstances, as prostrated myself daily before a collector by the name of Asai Gonzo. Oh well, you're fucked now. I've paid off 20 million now. Yusami-san, please take care of the rest. I confronted Yusami-san in broad daylight as he gave a presentation at the company. Yusami, surrounded by corporate executives, wasn't fazed in the slightest. Could you pick a better place for this? Why should I cover for your debts? The cheek! I lost myself in anger, and the next thing I remember, I was grabbing him by the collar. That, naturally, was exactly what he planned for me to do. No one in the company would listen to me after that act of violence. All that awaited me was a week-long suspension and a cut in my salary. With nothing else to do but cry myself to sleep, I returned home and knelt in front of Kiyomi's portrait every day. I trembled in anger, day in, day out. Anger toward Yusami, anger toward my foolishness. My nerves were so on edge. I had begun to believe that Yusami killed Kiyomi himself. My lawyer says that my unsound mind at the time would help in an insanity plea. Months passed and I still had no means with which to repay the debt. Meanwhile, Yusami's effort finally paid off and he was promoted to Senior Executive Manager. He headed the Outer Underground Discharge Channel project, which boasts being the largest underground structure ever built. Well, the problem is, it seems to, there's a saying in Germany, I think it's even a saying everywhere, as soon as money is involved in a friendship, it's worth nothing anymore. At least if it is bound by contracts and stuff like that. It's just sad. In front of that, my existence must have been trivial to him. Well, son, should I have forgiven this man? I feel bad for you three, my family. But Yusami cried fake tears at Kiyomi's death, and I laughed inside his heart. And laughed inside his heart, not I laughed. He laughed inside his heart. You cried out to the heavens at how unfair Kiyomi's death was. For what reason was she born, you said? Was Kiyomi born into this world to be used by Yusami? Oh, that's a terrible thought. Of course not, right? Just before I committed the act, I was called out by Yusami. Yusami, ever the man of pleasure, was addicted to gambling on illegal horse races. At first glance, the place looked like a regular coffee shop. But the kind of people who gathered there weren't there to drink coffee. They were all dressed too shabbily to be the typical posh clientele of such a place. They all stared at the television screen, watching the races with an excited air about them. Keep this a secret from my wife and daughter, he said cheerfully, and I was at a loss for words. Looks like you're having some money troubles. Whose fault do you think that is? I wanted to shout. Do you know about the Sonoyama Group? It was a Yakuza organization operating out of Tomambetsu City. If you work in construction for a while, you can get connections with these kinds of people. You're as overdramatic as ever. What are you talking about? I have a favor to ask of you. You really dare? To make the story short, he wanted to embezzle from Sanoo. And he wanted the cooperation of the lead accountant, me. He said we could give the Yakuza a cut as well. How about it? If you accept my offer, I might ask them to ease up on collecting your debt. Nah, that's a shady offer. I wouldn't agree to that. I would only agree to that if he would take care of the rest. A cruel smile formed upon his thin lips. It was only then that I truly understood the events of the past few months. This man had been trying to trick me from the very start. Getting my signature on that accursed contract was only the beginning. Yusami-san, do you have no concept of decency? Yusami just laughed out his nose. Samijima Toshikatsu, your name itself is a testament to your destiny to lose at everything you do. Toshikatsu is victory, spelled backwards. Wait, Toshikatsu is victory spelled backwards. Defeat. And Samijima, that admiral who lost Japan the war, no one heed morality lessons preached by such a wait, what? Let me try this over. Samijima Toshikatsu, your name itself is a testament to your destiny to lose at everything you do. Toshikatsu's victory spelled backwards. Defeat. And Samijima, that admiral who lost Japan the war. No one would heed morality lessons preached by such a profound loser. We're not in college anymore. As an adult, I'm questioning whether you have any sort of moral values. You aren't fighting a war. You're just bullying the weak. You have a daughter too, don't you? How would you feel if what happened to my daughter happened to Haru? You say it like I killed Kiyomi-chan or something. How cruel. My subordinates and I even went to the trouble of going to pay our respects. That must have been the moment where my passing fancies of killing him became more than just fancies. In any case, didn't you and your wife consider your age? It's a common knowledge that having children at an old age carries danger with it. Yusami was clever. His mind had tapped somehow into the powers of hell. He really hit me where it hurt. My sin. When the doctors told me about the abnormality in Kiyomi's heart, I was plagued with guilt. The only child I've made is Haru. Unlike your children, Haru is a brilliant daughter. She has my genes, after all. Well, she didn't turn out to be a prick like you, at least. So, she's a demon spawn? No, she's an angel. Naturally, what father would think otherwise about his child? I know that the girl Haru with her tiny violin wasn't at fault for anything. But hatred burned in my heart, and I felt that the only way to strike at this beast in human clothes would be to kill his daughter. How is she alive then still? Air on the G-string danced in my head. Men's minds are strange things, as they correlate sensations like music to memories and emotions. Thus, Air on the G-string became the soundtrack to my revenge against Yusami. Son, what will your mind's eye paint in your heart when you listen to Air on the G-string? It's hard to believe this magical scenery was made by the hands of man. The Tomanbetsu City Underground Discharge Channel. It's also called the Underground Shrine, a giant super-pressured cistern. It collects the rainwater that drains into it through an underground tunnel network, then opens up into a nearby river. Water is the source of life, but can sometimes cause terrible disasters. It was fear, the fear of flooding, that brought the people who constructed this together. They pooled their intelligence to make this disaster prevention facility. It was also Yusami Yoshinori's lifelong desire. Father, Soon, I swear. Soon I too will hear air. The G-string of a celestial violin will be passed from one generation to the next. I'll save you, Father. Soon. Oh. I went to the police forensics lab. It was a tiny, cramped room. One corpse lay strewn out. The glossy white sheet stood out among the dull, dim darkness. Yes, it was definitely my mother. I somehow managed to squeak that the thing before me, with the strangely disfigured head and body, was indeed Mom. The policeman sighed, then said, "Now we can finally do an autopsy." My beautiful mother. The woman who hugged me tightly as I shook from the cold. The woman who gave her body and soul to protect me from that monstrous man. Her head was caved in. Yet it was definitely Mom. Despite recuperating at home after a diagnosis of severe clinical depression, she apparently suddenly gathered her things and dashed outside at 7 p.m., the day of the accident. They found a plane ticket to Tokyo's Haneda airport on her person. It seems she planned to take the red-eye to Tokyo. The accident occurred as she tried to get on the bus to the airport and crossed the intersection. Apparently, the crosswalk light was green. Nevertheless, a car smashed into her at 75 miles per hour. The driver, a young man, tried to get away, but a nearby patrol car chased and ultimately apprehended him. A quick inspection revealed that he had been drinking. Stupid son of a gun. I wonder how Yusami and Tokita fared in their own escape. What punishment awaits me now that I've betrayed Gonzo? I just don't care anymore. One of the items found among my mother's belongings was a handmade scarf. Interestingly enough, he was allowed to see his mother, even although dead, despite having attacked Gonzo. I clutched it tightly as I stared at the floor of my dark, lonely room. Someone, please answer just one question. What sin did my mother commit to lead her to her death? She had planned to come surprise me with a visit. I should have gone to Sapporo to pick her up. Years ago. I should have gone to live with her even if it meant leaving Gonzo's side. Yet I continued to follow Gonzo, determined to make a name for myself in the underworld. What a childish dream. Wasn't my goal all along to take care of my ailing mother? I treated it as my one and only shining, albeit tiny hope. Poor Mom. Her husband was a murderer. She was so deep in debt that she fell mentally ill. And to top it all off, she died an unfair, untimely death by vehicular manslaughter. Where's the justice in this goddamn world? Well, we all ask this question at some point in our life. And if you haven't yet, well, you will at some point at least once. I think there's no one out there who never had that thought. Why this world is so unjust. Angels do not exist. How could they? If they did, I would have a firmer grip on my sanity. I wouldn't be grasping at my burning hatred to protect my humanity. The only things keeping me from losing my mind are the finely detailed visions of myself killing the driver who murdered my mother. A headache tears at my skull, but right now I almost feel blessed with this pain, this pleasure, this punishment, this retribution from God upon a pathetic boy who couldn't save his mother. I vaguely see a light at the end of the tunnel. I might be able to reach it if I lend myself to this headache. I couldn't hold back my laughter. I felt refreshed, as if the seeds I had planted that failed to sprout had actually only waited for the opportune moment and were now reaching for the sun. Maou, huh? I think back on all the incomprehensible events of this past winter. The ransom stolen from Tsubaki's family. The attempt on Other Gonsu's life via car bombing. Thinking about it now, there was something I didn't like about Tsubaki. And it was Gonsu that kept me from seeing my mother. I had plenty enough motives. And zero alibis, actually. All of the action occurred while I wasn't feeling well. My memory of those events is too hazy to interpret. Oh yes, and let's not forget Dr. Akimoto's enthusiastic romantic diagnosis. The suspicious looks from Yusami and Gonzo. I thought it was impossible before, but now I want to believe it. No, I'm ready to believe it. After all, what is truly impossible? Surely it was impossible for my mother to be killed in an accident. Preposterous things happen every goddamn day. So, maybe I really am Maou. The echo of the intercom's chime suddenly rings throughout the room. I thought it was one of Gonzo's cronies, but it was an unexpected person. Wait, what are you doing here? You are in deep shit right now. Open the door, Adai-san. It was Yusami, still on the run from the Zoroa Alliance. The icy road forward. Oh, I like this song. The music in this game is really beautiful. I really have to say, I like the music. I let Yusami in. She was aghast at the change in me. Wait. Aghast? What was that again? I think I already looked it up once. Oh! She was out of her mind. Or she was scared. After all, I haven't bathed in several days. Ooh, you must smell horrible. This isn't exactly the best place to hide from the Yakuza. Right, I knew that, but... But what? My heart throbs in pain. I had always held a certain suspicion toward Yusami. It was related to the events surrounding my biological father. Events I never cared to talk about. The news covered the accident. What do you care if my mother is dead? She mumbled. She seems to be pitying me. I decided to ask on a whim. Are you Yusami Yoshinori's daughter? She stopped breathing. I see. I almost wanted to laugh. That's why you've been following me around all this time. Did you want to apologize in your father's stead? Or did you come to avenge his murder? Wait, what's happening? Yusami's sobs drizzled out into the room, and the echoes diffused through the darkness. It was unpleasant. Why are you crying? I'm sorry. Disgusting to the bitter end. She apologizes even more. Shut up! But Yusami didn't even try to wipe her tears. I heard your mother passed away, and I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. What?
今、ユキと水葉はユキの自宅にいます。警察の感謝です。そこなら、ゴンゾーさんの手のものも寄りつけないと思いまして。
Yuki and Mizuha are at Yuki's house. Her dad's a policeman. I thought they'd be safe from Gonzo-san's men, as long as they are in his home. I see. That sounds like a reasonable enough plan. I guess that's why Gonzo hasn't made his move yet. But that still doesn't explain why you are here.
ですから、浅井さんに会いたくなって。
I just wanted to see you, Adai-san. You wanted to see me? Why would you want to see a murderer's son? Yusami's always been a strange woman. I hear the sound of ruffling clothing. The victim's daughter suddenly started taking her clothes off. What? I think this is getting dangerous. Oh, this is getting dangerous!
私でよければ。
So, what was she saying? If you like what you see, well, let me...
ですから。
Oh no.
浅井さんに。私でよければ。
Oh, the beast's daughter is a prostitute?
好きです。
I love you? She says she loves him. Okay, it's weird. Why is she doing that? So many questions. Why is she doing this right now? Right now. He must I smell after 2 days like, ugh. How bad must he smell after 7 days? What is this for a situation? And is that a belly button? That's a pretty... Or what is this even? That's a pretty big belly button. But that's not the important thing here. Why now? Why in this situation? He lost his mother. He's looked after by a Yakuza. You are looked after by the Yakuza. And the best thing you come up with is to have sex with him right now? That's not really the best situation to do that, is it? That's... why? I felt like someone had squeezed my heart.
ずっと好きだったよ。
I've always loved you. That was the worst confession ever. Hilarious. What was happening in my womb was far from an expression of pure love. It was little more than an insult. An insult that defiled me and disgraced her. It was only right that she shook all over. You've always loved me, you say. That was a yes? I have half a mind to kill you on the spot. You know that.
だって
There's no way we could ever be together! Do you even know what your father did to mine? Huh? Say it!
でもそれは私たちには関係ないはず
But that has nothing to do with us. Well, she's right about that. You can't blame her for the bad things her father did. And neither can she blame you for what your father did to someone to her. That's not how it should work. You can't blame the children for what the parents did. It's still a common thing that happens nowadays, and I don't know why it is a thing. I have no earthly idea why it is a thing. And I mean, not too long ago, if your father or your mother was in deep debt and they died, the debt would be passed on to you, to the child. And that was something that is just stupid. Why should the child come up with something that the father or the parents couldn't provide in their lifetime? That's just not fair. But there we are again with how unjust the world sometimes is. Yeah, sure. Logically, you're right. If I were a fucking machine, then we could do whatever you want. But how do you expect me to fucking look you in the eye and accept you while I think about the humiliation my father went through?
私はそれでもあなたが
But I still love you. Sorry that I read it so weird, but I really only want you to listen. In case you only listen and not actually read, I just want to make sure that you know what's going on. Because I don't want to ruin those lines anymore like I did sometimes. Yusami looked like she was about to fall to her knees, crying. Nevertheless, she diligently held her reddened eyes fixed on me. On the other hand, I would like to do her. I mean her voice. Alright? Well, I think I will start this now because I want to do it. Yeah. She seemed to be devoting her all to this confrontation.
好きですダメだ忘れようって思ってもずっと好きでした
I love you. Even when I tried to give up and forget about you, I always loved you. I can see that her feelings are true.
許してくださいどうかあなたを好きでいても許してください
Please, just allow me to continue to love you, at the very least. The woman in front of me wasn't Yusami. I didn't know a woman. Wait, the woman in front of me wasn't Yusami. I did not know. A woman hopelessly in love.
初めて会った10年前から私はあなただけを思ってあなただけが忘れられなくて
Wait, what? loved you from the moment I met you 10 years ago. You're the only one. The one person I always thought of. The one person I couldn't forget. 10 years ago? I think back. I see a hazy scene, one I don't remember very well. It came as a flash, tearing through the darkness of my memory, like a faint twinkle of lightning. But it left as quickly as it came, and the abyss of hatred was quick to cover my world once again. I see. So you came to comfort me. Totally wrong pronounced. I see. So you came to comfort me?
すみません。アザエさんは同情なんて大嫌いだと思いましたが、それでも何か力になれればと。
I'm sorry. I know you hate being pitied, but I wanted to be of some help. Because?
はい。好きだからです。
Right. Because I love you. How pushy. Pretty damn unsightly if you ask me. In what way is this girl a hero? She's a goddamn demon spawn. Look who's talking, Maou himself. Alright, take your clothes off. Is coming what I think is coming? Oh god, I could be in YouTube troubles. Well, not really, I did it before, but this time it's... Okay. Alright, if you want to see the rest of this episode, you have to click the link in the description down below, somewhere here, more like there. And then you can enjoy what's about to come, even though there's not really much enjoyable to see there, due to the circumstances. But because of YouTube, I think it's still a better idea to make it an unlisted video, so that only the ones who make the effort to actually look into it, with the proper warning, read the warning before you click the link, and yeah. So yeah, enjoy the rest of it. Well, as I said, not much to enjoy there, just that there is a little bit of nudity in it. In any case, have a good day, I think.